Hello everybody, I'm Todd Bowson. Sadly, with that Willow Bin was the Wench will be coming up at the end of the show. And first to start off with today is some weird facts. Okay. Planet Ocean. Earth is not really the right name for our world. A better name is ocean because nearly 3/4 of it is covered by water. It's often called the blue planet because it looks blue from when seen in outer space. Horseplay. In prehistoric times, there was a breed of horses called Eohippus. They were only about the size of a cat. I wonder if you could ride them. I'd like to ride one. Hop it, pull out a hop and hop it. Australia's red kangaroos can travel 42 feet in one huge leap, using their powerful hind legs and holding their small front paws against their chests. They can hop at speeds up to 40 miles per hour, which is 64.3 kilometers per hour for you Canadian viewers. They hold up their tails for balance. I wish I had a tail for balance. Take quick breaths. Have you ever noticed that you breathe more quickly after you have eaten a big meal? This is because you need more energy to digest the food in your stomach. And breathing more quickly helps supply it. I'll read more later, but now it's time for a giraffe and a half for Show Silverstein. If you had a giraffe and you stretched another half, you would have a giraffe and a half. If you put on a hat and inside lived a rat, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat. If you dressed him in a suit and he looked very cute, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit. If you glued a rose to the tip of his nose, you'd have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose. If a bumbly old bee stung him right on the knee, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee. If you put on a shoe and then stepped in some glue, you'd have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe. And if you gave him a flute and he played tooty toot, you'd have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe playing toot on a flute. If you used a chair to comb his hair, you have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot with a flute with a chair in his hair. If you tripped on a snake who was eating some cake, you'd have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot in a flute with a chair in his hair and a snake eating a cake. If you found an old trunk and inside was a skunk, you'd have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose, and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot in a flute, with a chair on his hair, with a snake eating cake and a skunk in a trunk. If you met a fat dragon who sat in a wagon, you'd have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose, and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair on his hair, and a snake eating cake, and a skunk in a trunk, and a dragon in the wagon. If you jumped on a bike and rode over a spike, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose, and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot in a flute with a chair on his hair, and a snake eating cake, and a skunk in his trunk, and a dragon in the wagon, and a spike on his bike. If you had a blubbery whale got a hold of his tail, he would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose, and some bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot in a flute with a chair in his hair, and a snake eating cake with a skunk in his trunk, and a dragon in a wagon, and a spike in his bike, and a hole on his tail. Whale on his tail. Doesn't have a hole in his tail, that'd be sad. If you fell in a hole that was dug by a mole, you'd have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose, and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot in a flute with a chair in his hair, and a snake eating cake, and a skunk in a trunk, and a dragon in a wagon, and a spike in his bike, and a whale on his tail, and a hole with a mole. But if you brought him a pole to climb up out of the hole, and the whale left his tail and went off in the mail, and he gave the spiked bike to a scoot on a hike, and if he left the fat dragon 'cause his wagon was sagging, and he gave his chair to an old tired bear, and he traded the flute to a bird for some fruit, And he told the old snake to go jump in a lake. And a man who bought junk brought the trunk with the skunk. And he gave the rose to a girl he chose, while the bee on his knee flew away with a flea. And he put the shoe and the glue on you, and that silly old rat ran away with his hat. And he put his suit in the laundry chute, and he shrank another half. You would have a giraffe. Giraffe and a half to show first. We'll read some weird facts before getting to a very entertaining part of our show. Not so short and curly. If the bends of Mississippi were straightened out, the river would be longer from the distance from New York to London. Most maps make the Mississippi look shorter than 3,710 miles in length. Powerful poison. The poison arrow frog, which lives in Colombia, is the world's most poisonous creature. One frog has enough poison to kill about 22,000 people. And the last one. Seedy travelers. The world's largest seed looks like a giant coconut and can weigh up to 40 pounds, 18 kilograms. It comes from the nut palm, which grows only Seychelles Island. Some nuts fall into the sea and float for thousands of miles. We'll see you in a second.